Today we are joined by a very special guest who I'm so honored to have on the couch. Steve Kullback, who is a Hofstra alum and graduate, VFX producer on so many incredible projects, Game of Thrones, Battlestar Galactica, did some work on The Matrix, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Steve, welcome to Director's Cut. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Were you a fan of any of these franchises going into working on them?
Honestly, I did not always know about them. When I started working on Game of Thrones, I had vaguely heard about it, but I didn't know too much about it. And then I got the book, and it was this giant 900-page tome, and I started digging through it. But before I got through the book, I had received an outline. I had been invited to come and see what they were doing on the tail end of season 1, having worked with some of the producers on a different show. And so they brought me in to say, hey, here's what we're doing, how might we do this, more, better, different. And so I tagged along on a bunch of location scouts and saw how they were doing things. And one of the things that I observed was they would benefit from having their chief creative working for them directly and their chief organizational person working for them directly instead of being at a vendor on the outside. Because I think as a producer of programming, and now I'm a producer on the show in addition to being a visual effects producer on the project I'm currently working on, I think when you have the team that you need close to you actually working with you and for you, that is an improvement. So we organized the team a little differently for season 2, and we brought in some visual effects producer support for me and visual effects supervisor, who's the creative on the team. And every year it just became more and more intense. And there were more than a few episodes. I thought the title of it should be Holy Shit, because I'm not quite figuring out in my mind how, a giant riding a mammoth into battle with, it was just overwhelming. But one thing that we sort of took as our driving motto was, you can't say no. You can only listen quietly and digest it and think of how are we going to get through this? And it was a perfect storm of unbelievably creative, hardworking people who came together and figured out, all right, this is a way, and let's try it this way and see how that works.
Speaking of riding into battle, I'm sure you're sick to death of talking about it, but the Battle of the Bastards, widely considered one of the greatest battles put to film. You have so many moving parts. You have the water at the beginning following Jon Snow as he runs through the cavalry charge. What goes into planning and executing such a large-scale operation? It's
all about storytelling, and it's all about vision. And in this case, the vision starts with the writers, Dan Weiss and David Benioff, and then goes into the hands of an insanely talented director, which in this case was Miguel Sapochnik. And Miguel is a very strong-minded, very clear storyteller, and we all sat around quite a bit talking about what needed to be done and how we might do it. And one of the things we brought to the table as a visual effects department was pre-visualization, and we animated the whole scene, top to bottom, both sides of the battle. And that animation, if you look at it side by side with the previs and the final shots, is incredibly faithful. And what that lets you do is it lets you understand what are we setting out to do, and what are the pieces we're going to need to do it. And then when you know what those pieces are, you can then get down to the brass tacks of how many horse riders you need, and how many extras you need, and how much track you need if you're doing a tracking shot along the horse cavalcade running into battle. And then we were on set every minute of every day that shooting was happening, because for any given shot, we had a playbook and a layout for where the camera needed to be, where the people needed to be, where they would move from A to B. And that kind of planning lets you create something very complicated in less time and less money than it might otherwise.
Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to Hofstra.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Make sure to watch The Three-Body Problem, coming out on Netflix sometime next year, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks. It's great to be here.